Hey guys, this is Kinglink86's, aka Raymond. Welcome to another favorite Christmas movies. Now, guys, you guys see me do the television specials, and now the time has come to do my favorite Christmas movies. So I'm hoping that you guys have seen these Christmas movies as much as I do, because I watch them every year. So I hope you enjoy my favorite Christmas movies. All right, you guys, let's start off this my countdown. Well, actually, it's not a countdown. It's just my list of my favorite Christmas movies of all time. Let's start off with Home Alone. That's right, guys, Home Alone, one of the funniest Christmas movies I've ever seen. If you guys may have known, if I read it correctly, this is the seventh biggest box office hit of all time. If you guys may have known, number one biggest box office hit is Gone with the Wind. But it's not a Christmas movie. Let's talk about this. If you guys may have remembered the story of Kevin McAllister in Home Alone, where he was accidentally home alone as his family went to Paris. And what's really cool was these two bumbling bad guys, Marv and Harry, played by Daniel Stern and Joe Pesci. This movie was so popular, it was supposed to last up to December. And strangely enough, it actually lasted all the way up till Valentine's Day. And I remember seeing this movie back in 1991. I just turned 5 and my brother was 4 and we went and seen it. And guys, 25 years later, it was 2016 or was it 2015? Either one of those years, guys. It was back in the 25th. Gotcha. Duh. It was in 2015 where we actually seen the actual movie back in the movie theaters. And you guys want to know why? Because my aunt, it was in her late 20s. She was 27 or 28. She took a 5-year-old and a 4-year-old to the movies, which was me and my little brother. And we were crying our eyes out because if you guys remember a part in that movie where he puts the tarantula on the bad guy's face, we lost it. So 25 years later, bam, here we are. I took my aunt to go see the movie, and brought some good times, and overall, guys, this was the best, Home Alone was the best Christmas movie ever. The sequel was way better, too, as he was lost in New York on accident. So, and guess who happened to see in the movies? Of course, the same two bad guys. Also, we've seen some funny hotel experiences, great Christmas music. It shows how this movie was great. Part 3 was alright, but as it goes on and on, the sequels got stupid. And it was terrible. Alright guys, let's go to our next video. I'm sure everyone remembers this timeless classic, It's a Wonderful Life, which is supposed to be like one of the best Christmas movies of all time, the number 1 best Christmas movie of all time. And guys, I'm sure you guys have seen this film. It's about a man named George Bailey. All through his life, from childhood all the way up to adulthood, life was not going as well as he'd hoped. But as time went by, he didn't realize that he helped a lot of people, and he didn't realize it. So it took a guardian angel to show him what life would have been like if he wasn't born. The perfect gift to give a man. You know, guys, when I saw this film, it was sad to see how everything was going well for everybody else except George. He felt like, when is life going to be good for me? When is this going to be a good turning point? But as time went by, what he didn't realize that he built houses, he was helping his friends, and he married the most beautiful girl that he ever loved, and he had great kids. But at the end, when he made that ultimate wish, I wish I was never born, the guardian angel was able to give him his wish and show him a world, what life would have been like if he wasn't born. And guys, it teaches you that life is the most important thing in the world. You can't just throw it away. It would be a mistake. But the lesson that he gave at the very end of that book was no man is a failure who has friends. So, and that shows you right there, there's no greater gift than friendship. And this movie was a timeless classic, and it's one of my top favorites. Speaking of favorites, this is my number two favorite. This is my second favorite film of all time, A Christmas Story. I'm sure you guys know every Christmas Eve all the way up to Christmas night, we see a 24-hour marathon of A Christmas Story. I should know because I've watched it ever since I was 6 years old, all the way through. Now I'm going to be 31. I'm already 31 as Christmas is coming in about 9 days, which is crazy, and I'm getting ready to see that. Now, guys, a lot of good memories came with this movie. Every Christmas Eve, we always watch that film, and then on Christmas Day, we always go to my grandparents' house for Christmas every year, and I mean it, every year. And my grandpa would always put it on that channel on TBS, watching the marathon of A Christmas Story. I watch it every year, no matter how many times. Sorry, guys, I'm tired. No matter how many times that this movie came on, I would still watch it. There was one Christmas last time that me and my brother, I lived with my brother at the time, we got our very own TV stand. It took 2 Christmas Story movies to finish that table. And let me tell you guys, it was hell, the build. But as time went by, guys, I was in 8th grade. And in my English class, he said, okay, guys, we're going to watch a Christmas movie, and you guys are going to take notes, and you're going to use these notes on this test that's coming up in about 2 days. I said, okay, what are we watching? I said, we're watching A Christmas Story. I was like, okay. I packed up my binder, put it in my backpack, and just watched it like this. All my friends looked at me like, why aren't you taking notes? You can use it on the test. I said, dude, I've seen this movie ever since I was 6 years old. I looked at him and said, I was 6 years old. I've watched this movie every year. I know every cranny of this story, and I know what things are going to say, blah, blah, blah. I'm fine. So, above all, guys, this was pretty good. And between you and me, guys, if you guys are McJuggernuggets fans, if you guys remembered how Jesse was able to made Easter eggs with this, seeing Jeffrey dress up like the bunny, and seeing him saying, I want a carbon nitrogen vitals and an air rifle. I couldn't say it. I can't even tell what it was. And also seeing him get his tongue stuck to the pole. Well, on a barbecue pit. But the kid with the with the pole, that was funny. It's only me, come back. Come back. That doesn't get old, and it never does. That's why this is the most classic Christmas film of all time. Well, guys, do not be fooled by this one. There has been a lot of rumors and a lot of debating said, is this a Christmas movie or is this a Halloween movie? But Tim Burton's A Nightmare Before Christmas. This was one of Tim Burton's classic films of all time. If you guys are wondering why I'm yawning so much, I couldn't sleep very well because the winds have been blowing really hard today. And it was up to 25 miles per hour. Now the wind's going down, which I'm glad I could be able to sleep now because I couldn't sleep. But anyway, back to this countdown. Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. This was one of Tim Burton's greatest films. Well, supposedly. They said that his greatest film that he ever done was Edward Scissorhands and Batman. That's right, guys. This is the same guy who directed the first Batman film with Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson, and also with Batman Returns. With the same guy as Batman, but with Danny DeVito as the Penguin and Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman. Also, it was also part of Christmas too, because at the very end of the film of Batman Returns, it says, Merry Christmas, Mr. Wayne. They say, Merry Christmas, Alfred. Goodwill toward men and women. That's because of Catwoman, because he lost her. Anyway, back to this film. We see a character named Jack Skellington, the Pumpkin King, which he wanted to try something different because it was the same thing every single year. But then he stumbled upon a forest where it had magical doors. It had St. Patrick's Day. It had Easter. And had also the door that led to the one place that he was surprised, Christmas Town. And if you guys remember back in Kingdom Hearts 2, we've seen Jack Skellington do the unthinkable by trying to take over Santa's job, give him a day off. And you guys may have remembered that did not go very well. And also, Santa Claus was held hostage by the one and only Oogie Boogie. But if I would debate that this is a Christmas and a Halloween film, it's a mixture of both. Because, hey, if it has part Christmas and part Halloween, it could be either way. Now, guys, I'm sure you guys remember the Christmas Carol films. But I think you've never seen anything like this one before. Now, this is Bill Murray's Christmas film called Scrooge. Now, Scrooge is a very different type. It was like in modern times. As you see, Bill Murray played the one and only Ebenezer Scrooge. Also, but differently, Scrooge, actually. But as you guys may have remembered, he'll be visited by three spirits. And let me tell you guys, the spirits were not very kindly to this guy. I mean, the ghost of Christmas past, well, she was a fairy. And I mean, literally a fairy. And the only way for him to teleport to different places was punch him or kick him or slap him in the face. Things like that. This was a very funny film. If you guys ever got the chance to see this film, I advise you to do it because Bill Murray was a funny man in this movie, and this was also a great one. Because I have one of those moms who makes me watch old movies from a long time ago, and let me tell you, my mom always has the best films, and this was one of them. So if you guys ever got the chance to watch this film, I advise you to see it. And once again, guys, as you may have known, Disney always has the best Christmas films, and this was one of them, The Santa Claus. If you guys have not seen this film, I hope you guys do, because there's 3 sequels. The third one was okay, but the first 2 were the best. Now, let's talk about the first one, the Santa Claus. We see Tim Allen play Scott Calvin, who had to take care of his son. Well, as you guys may have known in the movie, that they were divorced and everything else. But the son was disappointed to stay with his dad. As you could tell, they didn't get along very well. But that Christmas day, well, I would say Christmas, on that day when Santa was delivering toys, he accidentally scared Santa and he fell off the roof and he killed him. And what's cool about this was he read the card, he put on the suit, did all these things. He was able to deliver all the presents in all these houses because, well, he had to, because the reindeer wouldn't let him leave until he does it. And wouldn't you know it, that he did. And you guys may have remembered, as time went by, he was getting fatter, he was growing a beard, he kept shaving it, shaving. Psh, there you go. Bam, a beard. It was funny how he was taking everything. I like how he came in when all my clothes were poof, gone. And I said, Calvin, wait, what happened? He said, a bee sting. Apparently I'm allergic. Almost killed me. As he sat down, I said, stung by a bee, Scott? He said, it was a big bee. It was a big bee. Yeah, because if you're fat and the bee actually swelled you up, it would take a lot of bees to swell you up, if you know what I mean. Anyway, let's get back to part 2, the Santa Claus 2. Now, this one was a good step in the right direction because we've seen him become Santa Claus, but there's one thing that he was missing, was a wife. So he had until Christmas Eve to find a wife. If not, he can't be Santa anymore, and he'll lose all his magic. So Scott Calvin found out one thing before he left. His son Charlie was on the naughty list. And let me tell you guys, that was terrible. So he had to fix it. But juggling, helping his kid and also trying to find a wife, it was one of those days that, it was hard to do. Now, if you guys, I hope you guys will see part 1 and 2. Part 3, it was okay, but it was a different turn here. They showed the part like what would happen if he wasn't Santa Claus. Well, he was doing battle. Well, I wouldn't say it doing battle. It was just like a little argument type thing. He had to deal with an evil guy named Jack Frost, played by Martin Short, and he was able to steal the globe and make Scott Calvin say, "I wish I was never Santa at all." And when he held the globe, he went back in time to the spot where he became Santa Claus. So he was able to push him away and scare Santa, and he took the outfit. And as time collapsed, and he was back in his old self, like, what the hell? What happened? And so the only way for him to have his life back was get Jack Frost to say the same thing and steal the suit back again. So I want to say that it was a good film, but it was as far as in between. But part 1 and 2, I think you guys should see. Now, guys, this one was a very good film. I remember this was in the movie theaters and we actually watched it. Jingle All The Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sinbad. Now, I'm sure you guys have seen this film. This was one of my favorites. We see a dad who worked a lot and he had a son named Jamie, and he wanted a Turbo Man doll. And as luck would have it, on Christmas Eve, he actually forgot to get a Turbo Man doll within like a week or 2 weeks ago. So he had until Christmas Day to find find the Turbo Man doll, and of course he met Sinbad, a mail carrier who was looking for the same thing too. But as time went by, guys, there was a lot of mishaps. He tried to find a doll. He was almost conned by a con man, and almost got into a fight with the mail carrier guy. So, as luck would have it, he was able to get him the doll because he had to be Turbo Man. But enough spoilers there, guys. If you guys have never seen this film, I advise you to see it. But here's the dumb part I actually found out last year. I found out they actually made a sequel called Jingle All The Way 2. It was with Larry the Cable Guy. Same story, but different character. I didn't like it. I did not like it at all. Now, guys, I'm one of those people who don't see flaws in films. And that was a flaw. A big, big flaw. So I suggest that you stay away from the sequel and watch the one that started it all with this guy right here, Arnold Schwarzenegger, because this was a very good Christmas film. Speaking of great films, another movie that my mom introduced me a long time ago when I was a kid, Miracle on 34th Street. I advise you to stay away from the remake because the remake was terrible. This classic was one of the best Christmas films of all time. We see a man named Kris Kringle. Sound familiar? He was walking around seeing how Christmas was done. And of course he had to help a woman because she was the boss and found out that her Santa Claus was drunk. So he asked him to help him out. And he did. But as time went by, Kris Kringle was starting to act crazy around everybody, supposedly, because he kept saying, "I'm Santa Claus. I'm Kris Kringle. I'm Santa Claus." And they threw him in a mental institution. Then he was being sued. And what's really sad about it was that this man was enduring everything to try to prove to everyone that he was the one and only Santa Claus. But it took a brave lawyer to help convince everybody that he was Santa Claus by... I'm not going to give it away. If you guys have ever seen this classic, I advise you to see it because this movie was the best. Now, they actually had it in color, but I like it in black and white. So, if you guys ever see a movie in color, I would want you to see it, but to me, it was better in black and white. Now, this little girl that I want you guys to know about, this was Natalie Wood. Natalie Wood was one of the best actresses of all time. And this was her when she was a little girl. Now, she starred in a lot of great films, including the one that made her famous. Well, supposedly. It was West Side Story. I'm sure you guys remember this musical. Now, supposedly, West Side Story was supposed to be the first musical to win an Oscar for Best Picture. But that's where she came in. She was singing and everything else. But, guys, I advise you guys to see this film. If you haven't, do it. Watch it. You'll love it. And speaking of classics, guys, another movie that my mom introduced me to was White Christmas. Now, you guys might not know some of these characters, but the two people that I want you to know is Bing Crosby and Rosemary Clooney. Now, Bing Crosby has one of the best voices of all time. He has a great singing voice. He's a singer, let you guys know. This was a great film for this. Let you guys know that White Christmas, it was a song that Bing Crosby sung, and it won a Grammy for Best Song of the Year. Now, they actually advised to make it into a movie, which was this. It involves him and another guy named Danny Kaye, who were army friends. But when the war was over, they decided to become partners and like singing and dancing and everything. But he got a letter from somebody to take a look at some sisters and their act, and hopefully they'd help him out. And of course, it was these ladies here, Rosemary Clooney and Vera Ellen, known as the Haynes sisters. And of course, these guys fell in love with what each of the sister. And let me tell you, it was a great film. And because they went to Vermont to do a show, but they couldn't be able to do it. But they found out that their army general owned the motel, but he was struggling. So the guys were able to stay and help him out and make this their motel the best motel ever. And let me tell you guys, classics, you can't beat a classic. I'm glad that they haven't remade this film, which I hope they don't. But if you guys ever get a chance to watch this film, it's a great film. If you like singing and dancing, well, because there is a lot of singing. Well, back then, guys, they always do movies with songs, everything. Well, they do it now, but it was nothing compared to what they had back then, guys, because this was talent. I'm going to let you guys know, yes, we have good talent here, but these guys were legends. These are great singers, great dancers, and you can't beat a classic, like I always say, and that's what I always say all the time. The Polar Express. The Polar Express was also one of the best children's books of all time. I remember when I was a kid, my teacher would always read this book every time. And when I found out they made it into a movie, that also made it greater. Oh, all I can say, guys, man, I'm so tired. Sorry, I'm sorry for the yawning, guys. It's just, man, ugh. Well, I had a tough day today, guys, and I'm glad this wind's actually dying down. I'm glad. But anyway, let's get back to the film. Polar Express is about a boy who doesn't believe, but when this magic train just came by, he happened to go in, met some friends, and they were able to meet Santa Claus. But this is where in the movie where the kid has to learn that seeing is believing, and doesn't matter how old you are, don't matter what you believe. It's just that if it's what's in your heart, you're a believer. This was a great Christmas film, and also with Tom Hanks. I mean, come on. I don't think there's ever a movie that Tom Hanks ever did that was terrible. Well, there is one. It's called Joe versus the Volcano, but I'm not going to go into that. But this was a good Christmas movie. Now, here's the problem, guys. I'm going down a list, and I'm showing all of my favorite ones. And let me tell you guys, it's a long-ass list, and I hope you guys enjoy it. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Actually, this one's called The Grinch, actually, with Jim Carrey. And if you guys remember this movie, this was actually a remake from the classic 1966, I believe, or 65 cartoon of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Now, it was a big step. I remember when this movie came out around Thanksgiving, and that was one of the best Christmas films I've ever seen. And let me tell you guys, when Jim Carrey was cast to be the Grinch, it was funny. He was a funny guy in this film. We've seen a lot of how the Grinch was a kid and how he grew up to it. And then after that, we went to that exact story point where he wanted to steal Christmas. And he did. He really did. And we had a narrator with Anthony Hopkins that was even better. Now, guys, bear in mind, here's a little helpful tip here. I found out in 2018, coming in December or maybe late November, they're actually remaking The Grinch. But this is going to be a computer animated film. And Benedict Cumberbatch, I'm sorry, whatever his name is, the guy who played Doctor Strange, he's going to be the voice of the Grinch. And it's going to be really cool. But is it going to do great like this one? I have a feeling it will be. But all I can say, guys, you can't beat a classic, and the cartoon one was also the classic of all. Let me tell you guys, this movie was the funniest ever. You try going to a movie theater, you can't stop laughing, because this is Jim Carrey we're talking about here. That movie made me laugh so much, my mom and dad had to tell me to shut up when I laugh. But this was a timeless classic. Well, guys, it's not a Christmas film if I don't put this in my countdown, or my favorites of all. The Muppet Christmas Carol. Now, guys, you all remember with Charles Dickens, who created The Christmas Carol, one of the best Christmas stories of all time. Oh, speaking of that, I wanted to see that new film that came out a day before Thanksgiving is called The Man Who Invented Christmas, the true story on how Charles Dickens created the Christmas Carol. And wouldn't you know it, it's not in theaters anymore. It only showed it for one day, and that's it. A little weird, but I have a feeling we might see it again soon. But anyway, let's get back to this film. Now, we see a different take of the Christmas Carol. We have Ebenezer Scrooge, and also we have the Muppets, with Kermit, Miss Piggy, Fozzie, Gonzo, all the characters. We see Kermit being as Bob Cratchit, and also see a great actor, Michael Caine, become Ebenezer Scrooge. Great storyline, and also great songs. There was one song in there when Scrooge went into the past and saw himself. It was one of the sad songs. It was called When Love Is Gone. If you guys have ever got a chance to hear that song, take a listen. Or better yet, watch the film, because this is a very classic film. And it was one of my favorites. And no matter what, guys, every year I would watch it. And it doesn't get old. Okay, guys, Disney has another Christmas film, and let me tell you, this was funny. I happened to watch this at Costco, and my mom and dad actually bought the tape, and we had to watch it. This was called I'll Be Home for Christmas. You know that song, I'll be home for Christmas, all that stuff. This is with Jonathan Taylor Thomas. He was a college guy. He was hoping to have a great Christmas with his girlfriend, played by Jessica Biel. Now, the one thing about this guy is that he hasn't been home for about a long time. I would say about 2 years. And the dad tried everything to get him home, but no matter how hard his dad tried, he always finds a loophole. But except one day, the dad said that, I hope you come home for Christmas. He said, I don't know if I can. And the dad had an idea. I said, not if I give you the Porsche. It was a classic. It was a 1960 or 1970 Porsche. And the dad made him a deal. I said, okay, son, if you can come home on Christmas Eve at 6 p.m. on Christmas Eve, the car is yours. Not a minute before, not an hour on that time. If not, no car. So the son actually took up on that offer. But here's the thing about this film. He had to help some jocks for helping him with the test. Now, here's the problem. There was a bully, and he happened to stumble upon a plot to stop this friend from writing the answers through beepers. He gave three guys 3 beepers, and the answers would pop up on it. And as the friend was doing it, the bully actually stopped him, and the guys failed their tests. And guess who they blamed? Him. So you know what they did? They threw him in the desert with a Santa outfit, with the Santa hat, the Santa beard, the whole suit. But here's the problem. They super glued the beard and the hat on his face. And here's the thing. He had no ride. So he tried everything in his power to try to get home before Christmas Eve. And he had some adventures, but he kind of learned about himself that family is more important than any car. And you can't just promise something just because you want somebody to come home. You can't stay away from home, because home is the one place, or better yet, let's hear what Dorothy has said. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. That is one of the classic lines. Well, guys, we have come to the conclusion of Christmas movies. I could go on and on about this, guys, but these are one of my favorites. And last but not least, this was one of my favorite movies right here, too. This one's called Christmas with the Kranks. It's with Tim Allen and the one and only Jamie Lee Curtis, who's known as the Scream Queen. Well, she is. Because her first movie that she ever started was Halloween with Michael Myers. And I'm sure you guys know that one. Now, if you guys have never seen this film, you should guys take a look. Because in this film, they saw how their daughter left for college. So the husband had an idea, go on a cruise. On one condition, skip Christmas. And when you live in a neighborhood and when you do traditions and you guys say to everybody, "We're not celebrating Christmas." How the hell can you do that? How the hell can you do that? That's the one thing you cannot do. But anyway, what can I say? It's one of those days when you ask yourself, do I really want to skip Christmas and just go on a cruise, or you just want to celebrate it with all your friends and family? That's what you learn the hard way. But the storyline is amazing. If you ever seen this film, I advise you guys to see this. Well, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed my list of my favorite Christmas films I love watching every single year. I haven't seen a lot of Christmas films, guys. I have. I've seen the classics. I've seen some remakes, everything. And I mean everything. I mean, the one movie that they always remake all the time is The Christmas Carol. Always. And like I said before, all those films that they've done, these Christmas films were always the best. Christmas films are always the one that makes the day, well, actually this month, magical, because these films are timeless classics. And you can't beat a classic, guys. It's not a Christmas if you don't watch a Christmas film. You just can't. Well, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more reactions, more gameplay. Drop some likes on this video if you enjoyed this. If you guys have seen any of these films, comment me in the box below. I hope you guys enjoyed all these films if you've never seen it. Thank you guys for watching, and don't forget, stay positive, guys.